China. Now let's be clear, the so-called golden era is over.
We hear about China very often in the news. China is portrayed negatively in the Western media outlets, and politicians see China as a challenge and threat to their domination. In this video we will explore about the Chinese perspective on how they view the West and most notably why. China's negative perception of the West has been shaped by a series of historical events and conflicts. We must start with the First Opium War from 1839 to 1842, which was a turning point in China's relationship with the West. The conflict arose from the British Empire's desire to maintain its profitable opium trade with China, which China was opposing because of opium addiction was destroying their society. The war resulted in significant concessions imposed on China, such as the cession of Hong Kong and the opening of ports to foreign trade. The Second Opium War occurred from 1856 to 1860 and further strained China's relationship with Western powers. It was an extension of unresolved issues from the First Opium War, with Western powers accusing China of treaty violations. The war led to capture of Beijing and imposition of unequal terms on China, granting Western powers more trade privileges and territorial concessions. The Boxer Rebellion of 1899 to 1901 was a response to foreign influence in China. Chinese secret societies revolted against foreign missionaries and traders, leading to military intervention by an international coalition known as the Eight-Nation Alliance. Consisted of troops from countries including Britain, France, Germany, Russia, Japan, and the United States. The alliance launched a military expedition to suppress the Boxer Rebellion. The Eight-Nation Alliance forces, supported by modern weaponry and superior military tactics, defeated the Boxers and recaptured Beijing in 1900. The Qing government, initially supportive of the Boxers, was forced to sign the Boxer Protocol, which imposed severe punishments and indemnities on China. The Chinese Civil War from 1927 to 1949 between the Chinese Communist Party and the Nationalist Party KMT had a deep impact on Chinese thinking. The nationalist government supported by the West faced widespread corruption and mismanagement. The ruling KMT party under Chiang Kai-shek was plagued by corruption, ineffective government, economic instability, and a lack of popular support. The rampant corruption and oppression under the nationalist regime fueled dissatisfaction among the Chinese population. Despite Western support for the nationalists, the CCP emerged victorious, leading to strained relations with the West. The Civil War also resulted in division of China into PRC and Taiwan, which continued till day. Furthermore, the PRC under Mao was also facing international isolation till 1971. Diplomatic relations between USA and PRC started in 1978. During the Korean War of 1950 to 1953, China and the United States engaged in direct military conflict. When North Korea, supported by the Soviet Union and China, invaded South Korea, the United States and its Western allies intervened to support South Korea under the United Nations banner. This intervention was seen by China as Western interference in the region and an attempt to contain communism. China entered the Korean War in October 1950 to aid North Korea. The Chinese People's Volunteer Army launched a large-scale offensive against the UN forces, resulting in heavy casualties on both sides. The war had a devastating impact on China, with estimates suggesting that hundreds of thousands of Chinese soldiers and civilians lost their lives. China viewed the Western intervention in the Korean War as part of a broader effort to encircle and contain communist forces, not just in Korea but also in China. This perception reinforced the narrative of Western aggression and imperialism. The Vietnam War took place during the height of the Cold War, with the United States leading the anti-communist bloc. China saw the Vietnam War as a part of the broader struggle against imperialism and regarded the United States as an imperialistic power seeking to dominate the region. The extensive bombing campaigns, use of chemical weapons like Agent Orange, and the large-scale deployment of troops were seen as acts of aggression. China saw its support for North Vietnam as part of its duty to advance the communist cause and support national liberation movements. In contrast, the West viewed the war through the lens of containing communism and preventing its spread. The Vietnam War had implications for China's national security and geostrategic interests. The conflict threatened to spill over into China's border regions and potentially ignite conflicts between China and the United States. In 1989, China faced a massive internal challenge in the form of the Tiananmen Square protests. Following the violent crackdown on pro-democracy protests in Tiananmen Square, Western countries, including the United States and European nations, condemned China's actions and imposed various sanctions. These included arms embargoes, trade restrictions, and the suspension of high-level political exchanges. China saw this response as Western interference in its internal affairs and a violation of its sovereignty. The international media extensively covered the Tiananmen Square protests and the subsequent military crackdown, disseminating images and stories that portrayed the Chinese government in a negative light. China perceived this as biased reporting, Western propaganda, and an attempt to undermine China's reputation on the world stage. The South China Sea conflict involves competing territorial claims among several countries, including China, Vietnam, the Philippines, Malaysia, and others. China asserts its historical claims over the majority of the South China Sea, including the disputed islands and maritime territories. Western countries, particularly the United States, have expressed support for the claims of other countries in the region. The U.S. military alliances and partnerships in the region, such as with Japan, South Korea, and the Philippines, are viewed by China as attempts to project power and maintain dominance in the region, which directly challenges China's aspirations. The recent trade war between China and the United States has further strained relations. China views it as an attempt to undermine its economic growth and technological advancement, with accusations of unfair trade practices and intellectual property theft. China views these allegations as an attempt to contain its technological progress and restrict its access to advanced technologies. Understanding these historical events helps to grasp China's perspective and the complex dynamics that have contributed to China's negative sentiment towards the West.